Hi, I'm Leah Louise from Inspired Quilting by Leah Louise. Welcome to my sewing room. Today we're going to finish up this scrappy 9-patch rail fence quilt. Wait until you see the finished quilt at the end of the video. I love how it turned out. But first, let me show you some helpful tips and techniques that will make finishing your quilt much easier.
Look at all these beautiful 9-patch blocks. I can't wait to put them together and show you how the rail fence is going to look. The first thing I want to do though is show you a little trick. If you found that you had some troubles perhaps matching up some of these corners, here's a trick that works well with patchwork blocks. Now you can see on this one that it doesn't quite line up. If I line up one seam here, the other one is off maybe by 1/8 of an inch or so. What you can do is turn it around and look at that. Look at how much better that works. So that shows you that my seam allowance isn't always consistent, and that's just the way we are. We don't work on perfection, unfortunately, but that's okay. We can find ways to work around it. And then if this side doesn't work, just flip it to this side. And that one actually lines up really well too. So as you're sewing, if you find some that look particularly off that's going to bother you enough, then try flipping that little guy around. You can either flip it this way, flip one of the strips, or completely turn it over and try the other side. Now, one other thing I want to show you is that this also works once you have added when you're adding your low volume. So these are finished. These are my 6-patch. That is the first part of my block. And now I'm going to add the low volume. I want to nest the seams, so it needs to go this way. And if I put those together, they line up pretty darn well. But let's say I wanted to make it go the other direction. Let's try this one. Okay, there we go. See how far off that is? Yikes, that's kind of crazy. So if I turn it this way and go the other direction, it's better, but it still works best on this side. Now just keep in mind as you're sewing, you may have to repress your low volume seams to go the other direction for them to nest. So I don't do a lot of serious pressing on the last strip that I'm adding because I never know which one's going to have to flip which way. But once you do that, then you're going to get a really nice block that will have terrific corners and look wonderful. So what I have here are my 120, actually I made 125 blocks. I like to have extra at the end, so as I'm piecing my blocks, I don't have duplicates. I have more to choose from. So with these lined up, what I'm going to do is they're bundles, like I said, of 20. This one has 25. I'm just going to start sewing in pairs. Now, the way this block is going to work is, let's just move these aside. The first square is going to have a horizontal. The second, and I'll just take them from each block like I mentioned, the second block is going to be vertical, but it's going to line up with that horizontal. So if you see, the pattern is beginning already. Now to continue that pattern, we're going to go this way. See how our rail fence is moving? And then the next block that needs to go here will look like this. So that's what we're going to put here. This is the this is the 4-patch that we're going to put our 9-patch blocks into. This is the block that will repeat throughout your quilt, and it works perfectly as long as you have an even number of blocks, because we're going to be doing 2 by 2. This quilt is going to be 10 individual blocks by 12. So that means I'll actually have 5 by 6 of these larger ones. It makes it more manageable. It helps you to get some bigger pieces to work with, and it gives you a better opportunity to kind of mix up within your blocks the different colors that you're working with. Once these are finished, then we're going to go ahead and put those together. So the first thing is you're going to put this together, and you want to match those seams. You're going to put this one together and match those seams right here. See how we've got that? We match those seams, and then we are going to come in once these two are sewn and sew across here to create our 4-patch. A quick recap, we have our 4-patch laid out with the rail fence and the beginning of the next. This then is going to be placed next to this, and this will also be the same block that fits down here, because you see as this block comes down here, we've got another rail fence coming. But look at how wonderful this blue is going to be. Oh, I can't wait to see those all laid out. That's my favorite part. I love the low volume rail fence, but I'm really liking how this blue will look. So go ahead and get your blocks all finished and get your 4 patches together, and then we'll get ready to piece this quilt and be finished. Here are all the 9-patch quilt blocks that we made for the rail fence. They've all been sewn together into a larger 4-patch, so there's 4 9-patch in each block. Next, these 4-patch blocks will be chain stitched into the quilt top. The quilt top will be 5 blocks wide by 6 blocks long. Here we have all our large 4-patch blocks chain stitched together. What we've done is just like we did before in making the individual 9-patch. We just lay 2 of the large blocks, sew a seam, but we also continue sewing onto the next row. We are going to have a total of 6 rows, and each row will have 5 large blocks. When the rows are all sewn together, they're all chain stitched with 5 blocks per row, then you're ready to assemble the quilt top just by sewing the long seams. And you have 6 rows, so there'll be 5 seams to sew. And once you're there, then your quilt is going to be finished. Congratulations! If you've been sewing along with me, you have a wonderful new quilt and some helpful experience behind you. If not, then you have some great ideas to get you started on your next project. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial as much as I have making this quilt, and I look forward to seeing you again in the future. Thanks so much for joining along, and have a great day.